Welcome to Community Cuts. Io, thank you for coming on to our platform, Community Cuts. Myself and Nancy, we're going to be asking you about the students or the citizens that's in Ukraine, and give us some stories that you know about that we don't know in the West. So let's give us your narrative, what you found out about what's happening um, with the students or the citizens that remain in Ukraine.
You want to hear some of the experiences the Nigerians that put their stories on the social media for the Nigerian body to you know. The thing is, we have up to, as mentioned before, over 4,000 students, and there are also citizens who are already national of nationalized Ukrainian Nigerians that have business in Kyiv, and there are also students in other big cities like Mariupol, which is in the southeast, where the Russians are getting to quicker than they are getting to Kyiv, which is in the northwest area.
Do the Nigerian I'm so sorry. Do the Nigerians that are there that have businesses, do they want to stay or are they trying to get out?
Oh, they will have loved to stay, but they consider their life more important than dying for their business. So people that put there at the early stage, the Nigerian business people were the ones that helped the students to get money, because Nigeria could not, because first thing, the bank, there were so many lines, and the embargo or whatever that affected the, I don't know whether it's something that affected the Russian was what affected the Ukraine too. They couldn't get any money out from their bank. The banks were frozen also in Ukraine.
Okay, that's interesting.
So Nigerian students had to sort of take refuge with Nigerians that had restaurants, like when there's a market of whatever, a community of people that, of course, from a country, often enough, a restaurant develops out of serving those community their native food. So a restaurant owner will start accommodating Nigerians, and there's a particular woman who is a restaurant owner and also has hostels. So she was the one that was helping many of the Nigerians in Kyiv.
Wow.
But when the bombing and the shelling got more dangerous, they had to figure a way where the whole community of maybe about 100 of them had to try and move out together. So some of them rented buses, like they got like 4 buses to take them, those big buses to take them to the border. But they passed through a few checkpoints, but the closer they get to the border, things start getting difficult for the, what do you want to call it? The caravan of Nigerians traveling to the border together. So at one point, the Ukraine military asked all the call them students, all the occupiers of the buses to come down because they need the bus for their own Ukrainian. They paid for the buses. They were Ukrainian-owned buses, meaning private independent transport people that they hire the bus from, and it was the drivers who are Ukrainian. But they forced the Nigerians out in order for the Ukrainian to be able to use the bus to take them to the port, to the border, and to drive them across to Poland. So that for me is some of the unfair trading that the Ukrainian soldiers did to Nigerians who already hired the bus to drive them through the border to Poland.
So,
And the
so just to be clear, and Duke, I want to make sure you're hearing this correctly and our
Right.
audience is following. So there was a group of Nigerians, business people put monies together to get a bus to get some of these Nigerian students and citizens, or just students?
both citizens and students, but
students out. And so,
mostly the students.
okay. And then they before they could get to the border, and as they're getting there and passing checkpoints, it's getting more and more challenging. And then before they could get to the border, they were asked by the Ukrainian military to disembark from that bus.
Yeah.
And do what? Stand on the corner? What were they to do?
They wanted them to walk to the border, because they were not going to allow them to pass through the border easily. There's a kind of a quota system that the Ukrainians were using, or the Polish people, and an arrangement with the Ukrainian. This was at the Ukrainian border, by the way, because buses are the one that are going through. Like when it comes to Hungarian border, people.
You said Hungarian, is that correct? You said the Hungarian border.
Yeah, no. What I was describing to you was the Polish border.
Polish, okay, thank you.
Poland, yeah. And buses and cars were what people were using. I don't think there's a train that runs from Ukraine to Poland. So road traffic was what people use. And if there is supposedly a quota system of how many refugees could pass through the border per day, it's the Ukrainian military that decides on who can go through to meet the quota per day.
Got it.
So, of course, they prefer to get their own people to go through, and their own people, what do you want to call it? It's unending. If you're going to have a preferential treatment for your own group of people, at one time you should be putting other people who are not your people in. You cannot just be.
That is correct. At least put women and children, on the bus.
Yeah.
And the West does not know about this. That's what I'm asking you, and I really appreciate you coming on to Community Cuts to tell us this information so we can get this out. Thank you. But go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So the nature of things is like all these people, they had to go back to the city. What happened also is the Nigerian government brought representatives to there are multiple borders going into Poland. So it's not just one single border. So they already passed a notification or advisory to the student via the social media to which particular border they could go to, that a Nigerian government representative will be waiting. Maybe some of those worked out, maybe not. Maybe the ones that got whatever snafu, or that got their buses taken, they did not go through the recommended border that the Nigerian government had made arrangement with, with the Polish government to sort of say, look here, we want to airlift our own people out. So in the long run, those ones that were stuck in one border that had to go back, they had to look for other means to go through the Hungarian border, and the Hungarian pathway, you can get on a train. But nonetheless, the people that were trying to get on the train, they had issues too. They had problems.
Right.
Because there are many, what do you want to call it? Many videos that showed Africans that were disallowed from entering the train.
I
On
saw
the train
that.
station, you don't really have soldiers as much as at the border, but you
Right.
still have people that will stop you from entering the train, even when you have a ticket. But the train, their own, what do you want to call it? Their own restrictions about, well, something is coming on. You're putting a picture of Ukraine on
Yes,
the screen.
I
Okay.
am. I am. I wanted to give people a sense of where we were talking about, and
Yeah.
sort of show people what we were saying. So
All right.
Kyiv is where the star is, right? Right here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so they were
And
trying to get over, no one was going to Romania. Here's
no,
Russia.
nobody was going to. I mean, I'm sure some of them are going to Romania too, but they have
Okay.
to figure out whether they were going to take the train or they were going to drive.
Right. Right.
And the train only had a limited pathway to another country.
Wow. So
And I
here's,
believe it.
wait, here's Kyiv. And so Poland seems all the way across. Is that where most of the Nigerians were, in Kyiv? You see where Kyiv is?
Yeah,
And then we see
because
Poland.
Kyiv was the capital.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. That's right.
So look, Russia looks closer to Kyiv than Poland. What about Belarus? Up here.
Belarus is part of the Russian enclave.
Got it.
Belarus is ruled by the Russians.
That's correct.
And so then
Yeah.
we move down. So they have Poland, they have some borders in Romania, and then Moldova. Was it safe to go there?
All right. Yeah, because Moldova and Romania, they are not under Russian, whatever, Russian rule. They are
Right.
independent. But I'm sure Hungary is somewhere not too far too. I don't know whether that's the yellow one.
That's true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Yeah, Hungary's right here next to Slovakia. So it's Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Romania, Moldova.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they were able to cross over to Hungary and maybe Romania, but Poland, the nature of Poland is a right-wing government, even though after 2015, they made an arrangement with the EU that they should take refugees. Before 2015, Poland was not taking refugees from different parts of the world, mostly from developing countries. Their right-wing government was not interested in the idea that Muslims, refugees, will come to their country.
Got it.
I mean, they are Catholic, but they are racist.
Were most of the Nigerians in the Ukraine Muslim, or was it a mix of Christians and Muslims?
Oh, a mix of Christians and Muslims. But what I'm saying is Poland had a thing about refugees being Muslim.
Okay.
Period. Yeah.
Okay.
And they didn't want to be polluted by Muslim indoctrination or whatever else but they just didn't want foreigners. But they had an agreement with EU that they should take refugees after 2015. But nonetheless, it's still a right-wing country. It was still a nationalistic right-wing, So it's not surprising. But the Africans that had problem with Poland, they said they had more problem from the Ukrainian side
Wow.
than
Okay.
the Polish side
In what way
of
would
the
you say?
border.
Oh, in terms of just trying to get out, they're getting more
Yeah,
support from the Poland from Poland than they are from the
yeah,
Ukraine. Okay.
that, yeah, because uh, you have to get your visa or whatever passport stamped to leave the country. And the Ukrainians were not ready to stamp their passport to get out.
Interesting. So let me ask you this. Um, for American citizens that were caught in the Ukraine, what do you think was the support? And when I say American citizens, were there African American? I don't know if you know
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
is
Well,
it
the thing
also the
is,
passport? Is it also not just the
it's
color of your skin, but also
the
where you
thing is,
come from in the world?
Americans do not need to go through another border. Americans were airlifted through American provided airplane that will take them across from Ukraine to wherever America wants to drop its people. Africans do not have an airplane that will airlift people from Ukraine. So Western nations, they can provide airplane to airlift their people from Ukraine.
But why? I mean, Nigeria has the ability to
Uh, well, we are
do
talking
that.
about a corrupt country that has squandered a lot. I mean, Nigeria had a airline at one time, at the same time that Ethiopian airline is the biggest airline that has been operating throughout Africa, that has sustained itself for like 30 to 40 years.
Mhm.
Every African country will start a national airline and they'll go bankrupt. So the best they could do is to sort of make deal with other nationality airline.
Okay.
And so the people that were being moved out, the refugees from Nigeria that were sort of actually being discriminated along the way, did they want to go back to Nigeria, or were they looking to stay in Poland, or are they looking to come back to Ukraine? What are the needs and
Well,
wants of the people?
some of them that have business with Ukraine, of course, they will hope that the war will end because they have legitimate business. Their livelihood was in Ukraine.
Mhm.
So they will want to go back if the war could end. But nobody knows when this war was going to end. They don't know what level of damage. So the students too, they want to have a continuity, excuse me, to their education, so they cannot keep waiting to when the war is going to start. So it's not about staying in Poland because they are refugee, and African already has a bad reputation that a lot of Africans that do not have any qualification just wants to come and do menial work in different European countries just to, but students are not in that category. But what I'm saying is the racism lump people who are studying, who could already got their undergrad and who could even have some masters, they lump them together with people who are like, how will I put it, scrounging to make end meet by going traveling across the desert and looking for ways to sort of have a little bit of livelihood.
But
Students
does it
should be counted as
go ahead, finish? Students should be
students counted as middle class, self-sustaining citizen of wherever they are.
well,
That's
it's
the
hard.
way students should. Yeah.
I kind of, it's interesting. It's interesting
Mhm.
to, because it becomes a little complicated, but I want to be clear also that in a situation like that, I think it's hard for me to say, and I don't know if you would agree with this, who is more deserving than another to receive respect to get out of the country. I disagree that there's somebody more deserving, but I definitely think that students should be more put into the category of government officials or within a institutional educational system that should be supporting them and their exit out the door. But I think sometimes we get caught up in people who are striving to better their lives in another country. And they may have, people may say that about Africans who come to the United States, when we know that many Africans that come to the United States are highly educated
Mhm.
and have to start with menial work to build their way up. And so I just want to make sure I know that you're making the distinction, because it's interesting that distinction is made uh in deciding, and so it's not you sir, but it's that's the decision that's made in deciding who gets into the country and who doesn't. So you're not saying the wrong thing. So
No, 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 no.
the
That's
country.
not the point I was making. That's not my point. My point is not about entitlement to get into a country or not, but they give a reason. Some Polish right-wing politicians said all these refugees from developing countries, that they were already considered illegal where they were coming from. They didn't look at them as legal residents.
Okay.
Okay, they looked upon them as illegal
Immigrants. Okay.
people trying to move from one place where they were illegal to move to
Got it.
another place where they would
Got
be
it.
legal as
Got it.
well.
That's a much clearer point.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with both of you. At the end of the day, I believe that when you're in this wartime, it really doesn't matter. We're talking about lives, and yeah, I've seen women
Yeah,
with babies, have to stay in the background, and at the end of the day, you got to take these women with the babies. The men can stay, but the women with the babies have to be number one. And so, that doesn't mean anything to me
they did
about,
that.
pardon me? It
They
doesn't mean to me, it
did
does not
that
mean,
on some of the train stations. They allowed some of the women to enter the train and left their men behind.
okay,
Women and children were given that was the word,
autonomy.
preferential treatment going on the train.
Okay,
It's when they went to the border, immediately you enter the train is going to take you across the border.
right.
But when you drive yourself to the border, and at the border where you are not inside a train that already has a ticket or whatever, that's when they started to do their discriminatory
Yes.
practice based on the quota.
At that point in time,
Yeah.
it does not matter. You have women with children, babies, infants, and that should not be a quota system. We have to keep these kids, these infants, and these mothers alive. So I don't get the ideology. I don't understand that, but that's what
Well,
it is.
much of the time, if I can interrupt again, much of the time when refugees are moving in from one country to another, the United Nations, whatever of refugees, usually build an encampment for refugees, whether it's by the border or not. But that was not something that was already planned by the UN High Commission for Refugees. The people that were passing through they were going to be staying with different families or staying in a hotel in the country where they were moving to.
I understand that.
So on that is different from places where the UN and other people, they've already built up some encampment. Much of those refugees you see in war region in different parts of Africa, they have a refugee base that they
Right.
build.
Right.
But Europe has not been considered a continent where refugee base should be established at short notice.
And I get that. The point that I'm making, and I hope we all understand this, is that if a building is on fire, I'm not going to ask who, I'm not going to ask who comes out first. I'm just going to take everybody out first, and then we can decide, where these people can go. I don't need to see a passport to save you. All right. Exactly. And so the bigger issue, the bigger picture, if I can save you, you're going to be saved. And we can deal with those increments later on down the line. But I need to get you out of there, out of a worn, torn country that's being, has a war.
Well, the people at the border are not considering that there's a danger for people to keep waiting at the border. The thing at the border is there's no food, no bed, no place to toilet. They don't mind people just waiting around the border because the fighting is not taking place at the border with Poland or the border with Hungary or the border with Moldavia.
What is happening right now today? Today is the 5th.
Today,
right?
well, at least
the 6th. Today's the 6th of March. What is happening?
6th of March, there's been 3 uplift of students and residents that have landed at Lagos Airport. So let's say each plane can carry like 500 people. That means at least 1,500 has landed in Nigeria.
Okay, that's good to know.
Okay.
But that means we have
500 is actually too much for a plane, but I know like there have been 3 shipments or 3 landings. So maybe it's not just one plane at a time. Maybe it's like multiple planes that arrived around the same time, but there's been 3 days of landing.
That's good. And that's happening now.
Do you know what airline that's bringing them to Nigeria?
I don't even know which airline they used. It could be one of the, whether it's an Hungarian airline or Polish airline, or maybe they rented, because Delta goes direct to Nigeria. American airline, Delta goes straight to Nigeria. I haven't found out which other airline that was bringing people, returning people back to Nigeria.
Yeah, because I know a lot of Nigerians in New York City, and I don't doubt in 1 second that they wouldn't send a private plane and gather the money together to get to the people in Nigeria, even if the government could not.
No, the government actually was giving people money for transportation but it's just a minimal amount because they don't feel like it was their duty to give stipend to refugees, but they kind of allocated something like $100 for each citizen that was stuck in
Ukraine,
in the foreign country, which they could collect from their embassy. I'm talking about around the Ukraine, not anywhere.
Right. Wow. Okay. Wow. Wow. Wow.
So, but then the worst aspect of things, which I heard yesterday, was area where the Russians were attacking, which is in the southeast. which is one city called Mariupol, or was it called Mariupol? Yeah, Mariupol. There was some Africans, there was African students that got stuck there. They were actually going to cross to Crimea.
Say the name again.
Mariupol, Mariupol. And that is an area that what do you call it? It's in the south, close to
yeah.
You see it?
Yeah, you see it? Right here?
I don't see it because my phone is yeah.
Okay.
So there are students there too. And the Russian military, some of them were driving somewhere. And when they came to the point where the Russian fighters were, the Russians were shooting at their cars that they had to reverse.
Wow.
Actually, they got off their car because they busted their tires.
Wow.
So when
it's right on the border of Russia.
Yeah. Close to the border of Russia, but that's not Russian land. It's just that Russian invasion had reached that part of the world.
Right.
That part of Ukraine. So Russia does not discriminate between civilians, even if your color looks different from a regular Ukraine, they shoot at you if you come to that war front area.
Gotcha.
So they have to run back to Mariupol. So they were showing their video that, hey, they need help or they needed help. That was yesterday. I saw that video.
Wow.
So different area has different problem. People stuck in the real, what do you want to call it? Do you call it war front?
Yeah.
They were not easy to evacuate. If they didn't leave before and that area, the Russians got there quicker because they were coming from the sea.
Yeah, you can see that.
And they didn't get a lot of resistance, but they still didn't trust anybody that they see along the way because they don't know where resistance is going to come. So when you're in that front area, then that's where they have to allow. I mean, that's why they made this ceasefire deal or whatever arrangement that there should be a ceasefire. So citizens of Ukraine and other foreigners can go through. So whether it's worked out or not, Africans are trapped in those areas too, because the Russians got there quicker than anybody could evacuate.
Okay, we're gonna.
But in and other places, it took them a long time to, to surround, to create a siege.
Well, we're excited for you to keep letting us know what's going on.
Right.
And also, do you know if there's anybody here in the U.S. who's helping people there, or is there anything that we can do here in the West to assist those?
I know people, some churches, Nigerian churches that are raising money in America, and they're Nigerian open churches in different European countries. So there are Nigerian churches, in Ukraine, in Poland and Hungary. So those churches are contributing to helping people that are coming through.
Okay.
So Nigeria is known for their church.
Yes, that's true. Well, faith leaders, they always come in handy. That's faith true. Leaders are always there, always there.
Yeah. So I think that's about as much news. But if you want to learn more about the what's the word I'm looking at? The issues that are facing Nigerians in different foreign countries, BBC News has a segment called BBC Nigeria, as well as BBC Nigeria Pidgin English, where they speak Creole, Nigerian version of Creole English. They call it Pidgin English.
Okay.
Okay.
So when you Google and you go to Nigerian, BBC Nigeria Pidgin, you will get up to date, or you see up to date picture. It's just that you won't be able to understand, but there are subtitles there.
Oh, that's
Okay.
great.
Well, Io, we thank you so much. Community Cuts viewers, we really thank you, Io, for giving us and sharing with us your narratives from the citizens and the students that's in Ukraine that are Nigerians. So we just thank you, myself and Nancy. Much love goes out to you, and much love goes out to those citizens and the students that got caught up in that mix. So thank you so much, Nancy.
Thank you too
Yeah,
for
no,
having
thank
me
you
in
so
your
much.
program. Thank you, Nancy. Hopefully we'll meet someday.
Yes, for sure. Thank you so
Take
much.
care now.
Thank
All
you.
righty.
I leave you in peace. Bye.